In this video, I'll be showing you how to use and set up a waiting room in Zoom. A waiting room is a place just outside of your meeting where your participants can be kept on deck to be brought into the meeting on your invitation. The value of using a waiting room is that you can then be in the meeting, putting up your slides, getting those screen share settings squared away, putting a welcome chat message into the chat box and manipulating the settings that deal with if people can unmute themselves, if they can use the chat box, those types of things. You can already have that squared away within the meeting room itself and not have all your participants, either trying to talk to you while you're setting it up, trying to chat with you while you're doing that, or also, just to not have an audience while you're doing that kind of behind the scenes work. I think they're really useful for webinars so that once folks are brought in, there's a very clear, we're getting started right now kind of feel to things rather than a conversations are happening. And now, just like in a classroom, you have to then bring everybody together so that you can start on time. So if you like the sound of a waiting room, I'll show you a couple different ways to set one up. And we'll start by heading over to our settings. So I've gone to a web browser. I've gone to zoom.us. If I click my account, you might need to sign in. I'm already signed in, so many times that it remembers who I am. But you can see that I'm signed in with my NSD account. If I go to my settings on the left-hand side, there's a lot of settings here. I'll tell you right now that it's pretty easy to just hold down your command key and hit F, and then you can type in the setting you're looking for. But if you do want to scroll all the way down, waiting room is under in meeting advanced. And when you get there, you'll probably find that it's turned off. But if you grab the radio button on the right and turn that, you'll enable it. You can use it whether it's turned on or not. It just means by turning it on that you're implementing some settings directly when folks join your meeting. So if I didn't have this turned on, I could go in and as long as nobody's in my meeting yet, I could say, okay, for this meeting, there's going to be a wait room. But by having this checked, there always is one. I can also customize a title, logo, and description that people will see while they are waiting to join the meeting, which I think, gives a nice touch of organization and branding to whatever meeting you are hosting. So I've got that checked. And now I'm going to go over to a meeting that I'm hosting so you can see what it looks like as a host to have someone in your waiting room and how to authorize them to enter. So here's a meeting that I'm hosting. You can see that the host is me. And then the guest, the participant who's waiting to enter, is the instructional technology account. They have not been invited to enter yet. I have an admit or remove. So if you saw an account or name that you didn't recognize, you could always reject that person from the waiting room by using that remove button. Is a button that appears if you have more guests. That's a bulk let everybody in. And that's a nice one to check. Once you've started your session, you kind of want to put that waiting room aside. It does mean that anybody can get in once you've done that, anyone who has the password to the meeting. But at least you don't have to keep going back there and clicking. One thing I like to do as a host is go down to my more settings before I let anyone in and take a look at some of these settings at the top. If it is something like a webinar where I'm going to be doing Q&A at the end, I'll probably click mute participants on entry, and then I won't allow them to unmute themselves if it's, folks that I'm concerned they're going to be interrupting me. I might leave that checked, like if I was doing a webinar with teachers, because at the end I will invite them to unmute themselves. I just think this is kind of nice to have turned on because, as we all know, when mics are still on, when people join webinars, it often becomes a disruption to the presentation that's going on. So nice one to even just help your guests out by having that button already checked. And there's that ad hoc put participants in waiting room on entry. So if you didn't have it turned on at the master settings on the web page, you could check this box and it would enforce it for just this meeting. So if you want to try it out, that's the place to do it. I can send a message to the people that are in the room, say I was running a little bit late, so I need a couple more minutes to get my slideshow squared away and post and share it out. I could tell people, hey, don't worry, just a couple minutes before I let people in. If our co-host is late, you can send a message, let people know. But once I am ready to let people in, I just click on admit. And now that you'll see that instructional technology person came in and then their mic muted. So it's a little bit delayed because the setting first they allowed in and then the setting enforces. So if they were talking to their dog or their kid or something as they entered the room, you might get a little bit of audio coming in over the top, but then it'll quickly mute it. So that makes it pretty convenient. All right, so that's really it for a waiting room. Again, if you do want to have it on all the time, you do that out in your main settings, or if you just want to have it meeting by meeting, it's in the More section of the Participants console under Manage Participants. All right, thank you very much.